I would be on the bike, and after, it depended. Sometimes it was 18 miles, sometimes it was 20 miles, but like I would have tears coming down. The pain was so bad. And I was like, oh my God, I got to get home. Like, I got to get off this bike. Now I've done a handful of rides over 50 miles and I'm fine. And that was not the case.
We really can see dramatic changes, especially when we're doing specific things, right? Hi, Celia.
Hello, Dr. DiPasquale. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. How you been?
Oh, that's good to hear. Yeah, doing well. Thank you.
Good. I know it's been, has it really been a year since we did the procedure? Is that about right?
Yeah, so Valentine's was a year.
Wow.
Over a year. So a year and 2 months.
Crazy. And I know that we spoke, initially about a month and a half out. You were doing pretty well, and I haven't had a chance to catch up with you. So how are things kind of going now?
I mean, like, I don't want to say 100% healed because, like, there are those little moments where I go to get into bed and I might feel like, oh, just a little bit of discomfort getting into bed, or maybe a little bit of discomfort getting out of bed or something like that. But I'm telling you, it's incredible. Like,
yeah,
it's absolutely incredible. And, I tell people often the story about how the day before the procedure, I was telling you, I can swim. It hurts a little bit after, maybe 20 minutes. And, after I bike ride, like maybe 12 miles, it hurts, but I can do it. And, I can run okay. And you were like, listen, you understand. I'm going to heal you. I was like, you're like, the problem is people like you, they wait till they get to a point where they can't do that stuff. And then you're too far gone. And you come to me like 10 years from now when you can't do that stuff, I'll be able to help you like maybe 30%. But now, like, we're going to heal you. And I was like, all right, well, this guy's confident. Everything you said would happen, happened. Like, within 2 weeks, I felt better because of the PRP and the stem cell, and that I had had experience with that in my knees. So I was very confident in that. Everything you said was absolutely spot on. 6 months, you'll feel better. 9 months, you'll feel better. And it's incredible. I mean, there's again, it's not 100%. Like, I still have that little bit of stuff in there that I'm like, oh man, but nothing like, I would be on the bike, and after, it depended. Sometimes it was 18 miles, sometimes it was 20 miles, but like I would have tears coming down. The pain was so bad. And I was like, oh my God, I got to get home. Like, I got to get off this bike. As soon as I got off the bike, I'd be fine. But the agony and the pain, and then just like getting in and out of a car and just lying down in bed was the worst. Now that's not the issue. It's really not.
I know. And it's all about perspective. And I think just like from a general perspective is like, the context is you're like an elite athlete. You don't just sit on the couch or make grocery runs or take care of some kids. You're a trained athlete. So, I know I mentioned, 30 days, the doc mentioned 60 to 90 days, but we had a conversation. It was about a month and a half out, and you were training 2 to 3 hours a day with no pain. So, we really can see dramatic changes, especially when we're doing specific things, right? And you come to us with just a simple low back issue. I mean, you had 2 really big disc herniations. You had a lot of, significant findings. So I knew that it would take some time. Are you back at like full capacity in terms of?
I pretty much am.
Competing?
I really am. I'm running as strong as I was, 5 years ago. I'm running stronger than before the crash. I'm not biking as strong, but that's because I'm not able to put in the mileage I used to be able to, but that's coming back. Like, honestly, like it was the 20-mile threshold I struggled with. Then I got to the 30-mile threshold. So now I've done a handful of rides over 50 miles and I'm fine. And that was not the case. Like I could not do like anything over 20 miles. I was in agony. I had to get off that bike. So that's it'll eventually come back. It will.
That's another thing. Like, we need to add perspective. I mean, you were in a bike accident. You were hit by a car, right? So. Again, significant trauma, and just getting back. The fact that you're fully functional, you're able to compete is really a blessing, and I'm really happy.
No, totally.
One of the things I always like to ask is like, what was really the decision? Again, we talk about alternative treatments, right? So, what was it that caused you to kind of look out for this type of treatment?
Yeah. So I knew like adjustments weren't helping. I knew like I wasn't interested in, taking pain medication. I knew I had to find something alternative, something. And so I reached like just my everyday people that I was working with, both my chiropractors, my massage therapist, just asking like, what have you heard of? I like researching things, and regenerative medicine is definitely intriguing to me. Of course, my success with PRP was I was so confident with PRP that I knew that I just knew there would be something else out there, and really Sean Hansen, when he said, give these guys a call, just give them a call. Because I had asked other people, like, what is it that's regenerative that may work, and the answers were PRP, stem cell. But Sean said this disc seal. And the thing with Sean that cracked me up was he kept saying, I have the same herniations that you have. And so when he told me about this disc seal, I'm like, well, Sean, why haven't you done it? He's like, well, it's very expensive. And, I don't, feel comfortable having it done. He told me he's like, well, they did offer to do it. I'm like, dude, you're stupid to not do it. Like and especially if you're telling me to do it, So he had it done, didn't he?
He did.
Yeah. And I'm telling you, I made him. I'm like, dude, seriously, you're telling me to do it. You better go do it.
The thing is expense is relative. I think when you have an intention to improve your health so that you can get back to doing the things you love and enjoy.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, is it truly expensive or is it worthwhile?
No, you're absolutely right. The problem, doctor, is there's two problems. Number one, there's no guarantee. There's no guarantee. Right. So like, oh, I paid by my credit card, so I'm going to get a refund. There's no guarantee. There's no refunds, right? Yes, my husband and I made the decision. Yes, absolutely. If this is the number that we're going to have to pay and it worked, then it will all be worth it. But it's still a risk. There's no guarantee. You know what I'm saying? So that's tough for people. That's tough. That's really tough.
Yeah. No, I get that. And that's one of the big barriers to entry. One of the blessings, for individuals like you, when you have an active personal injury case, is you have a third party payer, right? You have somebody that can be responsible. And that's really just the value in your case. And, we always work towards getting good value so that ultimately we can give people access to that type of intervention.
Right? Yeah. Yeah.
That's really the goal.
I didn't know anybody that had this done. Like I looked, I didn't know anybody, and let me tell you, like I talk about it all the time. It's a small community, triathlon community in Tampa Bay. But even across the US, I mean, I talk about it all the time. And I tell people, I'm like, I don't know if you're a candidate. I didn't go to medical school, but call them up, get a consult, go figure it out. And everyone always asks, well, and I tell them, it's regenerative medicine. So it's not covered by insurance, but everybody is a unique situation, and get the consult, just get the consult.
That's really the bottom line. So we never do procedures on people that we don't feel like would have a high likelihood of success. So patient selection is always important. But more importantly, in terms of the options that are available to people, when I speak in terms of like 10 years down the road, this is going to become a really significant problem and you're going to lose the ability to do what you love and enjoy. That's the truth, right? Especially if we're just managing things with drugs or cortisone injections or the traditional stuff. And the only other option outside of that is radical surgery. So before we go in and cut things out to try to solve for pain, we have the ability to heal things.
Yeah.
So in terms of downside, the worst possible case scenario is failure to improve, but we do everything we possibly can on the front end to offset that as best we can, because, we don't like to treat patients that don't improve.
Right. No, I mean, of course. And again, like the success that I personally had with PRP in my knees, I just was like, well, I just know the PRP is going to work,
Yeah.
And But like that whole DISCSEEL stuff, like people are like, what the hell? Really? Like what? It does sound pretty crazy,
Well, I mean, it does, but if you really break it down, I mean, it makes a lot of sense, right? So
And it absolutely does. And so like when I was talking to the surgeon himself, he was telling me it's only him, or maybe you did. It's only him and this other guy in California that are doing this. Well, then you're like,
very few.
why aren't more people? Well, now, yeah, it's more than a year later. Why aren't more people doing this? What's the big secret, right?
Yeah, no, totally. So it's a relatively new procedure developed about 4 or 5 years ago. It is now becoming way more popular just because of the outcomes.
That's good to hear.
The fact that most people don't want to have surgery. It is truly an alternative. Like with big disc herniations, right? In most cases, those are surgical cases, right? Now it's an alternative to that. It's cutting the disc out to relieve your leg pain, let's say. And we know that comes with significant long-term issues down the road.
Right.
Solve for the leg pain, but it doesn't always get you back to fully functional. And we have, recurrent disc herniations on top of it. In this model, we're actually healing the disc by sealing it with an FDA-approved off-label product that literally works with your body as opposed to against. So you're able to save all your parts. Your disc is still intact, and we can solve multiple problems all at once.
Yeah. No, I mean it's incredible. I mean, and you guys still have the 2 offices, right? Brandon and Spring Hill.
So we're in Brandon and Spring Hill locally. We have one in Delray down in South Florida.
Oh, you do? Okay.
And we have an office in Boston.
Oh, wow. Okay. I was just talking to someone in Oregon, and I was like, dude, it'd be worth the trip just to come get the procedure done.
So it's interesting that you say that. We do see a lot of patients. We call them international, but they're not always international. They come from all over to fly in to see us. So we're used to that kind of stuff, There's not a lot of docs that do the level of regenerative medicine that we do, because a lot of times, even with DISCSEEL, they'll do a DISCSEEL procedure, but then they won't add all the regenerative components to it, right?
Yeah.
The procedure that you received was really comprehensive.
Yeah. I remember like it was stem cell, PRP, that DISCSEEL. I mean, it was definitely extensive. There's no doubt. Which one of them worked the most or whatnot, who knows? But I don't care.
Well, they're all designed with specific intentions, right? It depends on the target tissue, right? So if there's a disc that's injured and it's a really large one, then we have to seal it. Otherwise, we're not going to be able to just heal it on its own, even with powerful regenerative stuff. If it's facet and ligaments and other things, then we have the capacity to heal that just using a different biologic. And that's really the nature of our practice. Is we have a wide variety of biologics for various target tissues, and many people present with complex problems. So sometimes we have to use all of them.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, we look for this type of result. So this is really the most important thing to me. I'm really happy that you're doing well.
Yeah, no, it's great.
Are you happy?
Oh, ecstatic. It was the best thing I did. The best decision I made. 100%.
Okay,